her day job. She has got a work to do in the world today. She'll tell you that she's the owner of the Bayfront Inn Hotel in Naples, Florida. So if you get to Naples, Florida, you want to stop there for sure. It's an anointed place. But she also serves as on the board of trustees for Dr. Myles Munroe's International Third World Leaders Association. And of course, she's been a mentee under Dr. Myles Munroe now for 8 years. Introduced to him in this house 8 years ago. I just informed her today that 8 is the number of new beginnings. And I believe this year, God is taking Trista Sue to a new level of leadership. She already is known for her regular teaching online, and she's mentoring and teaching the kingdom in various ways, shapes, and forms. I can't wait to hear from her tonight. She's got a lot on her heart, and she's informed me she's got a lot on this machine, too, to get up on there. But, you know, the devil has tried to hinder this every which way to keep this from happening this week. So I'm just so glad we're kicking him in the teeth, and we're doing it anyway. Every one of these speakers that we've had this week have had difficulties getting here. I mean, from flights being canceled to flights being missed and all kinds of those kinds of things, and they're here anyway. And Trista Sue tonight is overcoming a voice attack. But you know what? God has made us overcomers. Help me put your hands together. Let's welcome and honor Trista Sue Kragh as she comes to speak. She's going to be introducing some of the other mentees that have come up from Naples. Come on, let's thank the Lord.
Oh, yes, but the mentees and things, yeah. Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be here. My voice usually doesn't sound this deep, but as he said, I'm overcoming laryngitis, and so I'm so excited to hear myself speak again. It's rough when you can't talk. I was mentored by the best that I could find on the planet, and I submitted to him. So everything he taught me, I also implement in my life. And so I have a group of mighty leaders that we have been mentoring in Naples for about 4 or 5 years now. And so there's a few of them are going to come up now. Please come up. And they're going to share how their life was impacted by the message of Dr. Myles Munroe. And we're going to take a few minutes each. And all of us, I saw a number of you raise your hands, how you felt Dr. Myles Munroe mentored you through his books, his teachings. And so he would always give me a platform whenever I would travel with him or meet him in different destinations. He would share the stage with me. And so I likewise am doing the same. So this is Melissa. Melissa, share with us a little bit about how your life was impacted by Dr. Munroe's teachings.
Before joining the mentorship program, that was the biggest step for me. And he taught me in the mentorship program to believe in myself and my gifts and talents that God gave me specifically, not just for me, but for the world. In pursuit of purpose, in his book, he says that our purpose is to affect history within and beyond our generation. And my heart is with the children. And so I encourage you to believe in your children, that their gifts and talents are to change the world and that they can do it. And Dr. Monroe believed in that, and I believe in that too.
And to add to what Melissa just said, I'm also under Trista Sue. It's a privilege really to be under such authority. I was introduced to Trista because of H.E. And then how many of you know there's always a price to pay when you have to get a blessing? I can attest to that. I had to go through a lot of stuff with my daughters. And as you can see my accent, I'm from Haiti. So I had encouraged my daughters to go to college and be a doctor and pharmacist. And I had trained them very well through high school. I knew for sure when I dropped them to college, they would be very successful. Well, it turns out it was not that. They showed me otherwise. And to all that journey, I stay on my knees and I pray God, and God had led me to HE. When I introduced me to HE, and I got into Trista. And I truly understood the purpose. Before, I didn't know what purpose is. I learned that through Trista, who learned it from Dr. Myles. To make a long story short, the journey was hard for me, but it was a learning experience. Now, not only I can lead my own daughters, but I have been with Trista for 2 years now, and I was able to, I was able to not only lead my own children, but I am leading in my school district. So far, my book has been published in July. I had 10 speaking engagements in my school district, teaching other parents not only to send your kids to school, but teach them how to find their purpose for their education. And that is, I thank God for Dr. Myles Munroe and Trista Su. Thank you so much.
Hello. My name's Brittany. I want to say good evening to all the originals in the house. Papa would always say, touch the person next to you, hold their hand, and say, I'm touching an original. You'll never touch that person again. You're never going to see that original again. That's an original person. When I was told I would have the privilege to speak about my impact that I got from Papa, there's a lot of things you can say. There's so much you can say about a man who impacted the world. He impacted so many people around the world. There's so much you can say, but individually, I grew up in a pastor's home. I'm a pastor's kid, one you would call PK. And you learn stuff, like Trista said, she learned so much in Oral Roberts, but when you come to know the truth, when you hear Papa, or you hear Trista, who came from Papa, and came from the message of Papa, you hear the truth, you hear so much, and you're just like, why didn't they teach me that? Dad, why didn't you teach me that? Why didn't the kingdom ever come up in this conversation? And it was just amazing to see that transition from being in religion to being in the kingdom, and what my life really meant, and what I was supposed to do to get back to the original state, to get back, get the world back to where God wanted it to be when He created it. And Dr. Myles was my dad. He became my dad. I still keep in contact with my dad, even though I moved away. But Papa became Papa for me. It was like a transition spiritually as well. My dad, the mantle of my dad, once you move out, it changes, and Papa became that mantle. He became that spiritual father for me, message-wise, and for my individual life as well. So I encourage you guys to mentor people just like Papa did. I encourage you to take someone and just mentor them. A lot of people need that. Everyone needs mentorship. They'll be successful in their purpose just because you mentored them and showed them that that's what they're supposed to do. Thank you.
Good job. Glad you knew. This is H.E.
Yes, my name is H.E. I never thought in a million years that I would even be standing here in the very place that Papa has been standing for so many years. This is my 3rd time here in Bradenton. So this has been such a treat being here with you all. I would first like to thank the leaders of the house, the Durstings. Thank you so much. And also to Trista Sue for being an example of everyday kingdom living. So I appreciate that. I met Dr. Munroe, first heard him in 2009. I think that was a very distinct year for a lot of us. And my life was just totally changed, totally turned upside down. And there are 2 brief things, like we all said, there's plenty that we can share, but there are 2 brief things that I will share that affected me personally in a major way. And one is the importance of environment. And when I met Dr. Munroe, I'll just say this in a very brief snippet. Within 6 months, my husband and I made a major change in our life. And we decided to leave where was home for us, where we grew up, our church, our family, business, everything, and that was in Atlanta, Georgia. And we decided to move to a place that was conducive for our gift and our purpose, which is Naples, Florida. I understood through Dr. Munroe that it's not about the seed, but it's about the environment, because the environment of a thing is more important than the thing. So it doesn't matter if you have a seed with all this potential in it, or a mango seed with a tree or a forest in it. If it's not in the right environment, if it's sitting on a concrete slab, it's not going to grow. But it needs soil, it needs water, it needs sunlight. And so for my husband and I, our water, our soil, our sunlight was getting under the tutelage of Dr. Munroe, and we couldn't move to Bahamas even though we tried. So the next best thing was Naples. And then the second thing that I learned from him, where he majorly impacted my life, was the importance of your uniqueness and your exactly who God created you to be. We live in a society where we are encouraged to be like and emulate what the media puts in front of us. And that is not so. And we are unique, and there are people in here who don't feel good about who they are because they don't look or act or have the success of what other people measure. But your uniqueness, you are a distinct expression of God on the earth. And I learned that through Dr. Monroe. And every attribute that God created you with, in every kind of way that you are, and your personality and your looks and your height and your smile and everything, he wanted you to be that way. So he taught me not to shrink for anyone. And if no one believes in you, God does. Thank you.
Good job. Let me tell you, mentorship works. And it takes the load off of you also, right? You can only do so much. So Papa Myles was very deliberate in duplicating himself, but not to be like him, but yet to think kingdom, but yet to be yourselves. So what I wanted to share with you tonight was my process, because I'm going to build on what Chiro and Hubert spoke about today, and build on the process of how to discover your vision, how to discover your purpose, and how to write your vision so that you can die empty and finish well, just like the t-shirt says. That's your goal in life. So, but first of all, I must be obedient to my mentor and share my story. That was something he was emphatic about. And so I wanted to let you know that I am from Naples, Florida, and that is the place the Holy Spirit lives. Yes, God's in Bahamas, that's fine. But I let Papa know where the Holy Spirit is. And when he visited Naples, he had to agree with me. Yes, indeed. So that is the hotel that I have been giving stewardship of. My father is the owner, and I've been running it for 20 years now. This will be my 20th anniversary coming in October. When I first started at the hotel, I was fresh out of ORU. And your story reminds me a lot of me. And I said, okay, I'm going to give my life to God. And the only way I know how to do it is to do it in the ministry. And so, but my dad said, hey, I need you to go down and run this hotel. I said, I don't want to run a hotel. I'm 21 years old. You know, I'm going to do something for God with my life. So I got to go into the church if I'm going to make my life count for God. And every time I resigned from the hotel, which was 3 times, God shut the door. And so I had to say, okay, what is going on here? And I had to realize this was my ministry. This was a resource God had given me. So I started studying my resources. And that's one of the keys to your purpose and your vision, is you discover your design, which H.U. was alluding to, why you are born where you are born. God gave you the parents for a reason, the country that you live in, the language that you speak, the gender that you are, the color of your skin. There's a reason for every distinctive piece of you. So you study that, and then you study your gifting. And then you look at your resources. So I have been utilizing this resource, every square foot of it that I could the past 20 years, in order to advance the kingdom of God in a way that I can, according to the resource he gave me, because I will give an account for what I did with what he gave me. So now that I understand this is my ministry, and it's not in a church or as a pastor, but it's as a business person. So as a business person, we're going to get down to business tonight. How's that sound? This is a picture of my husband and my son. This is Matthew, and my son is Maverick. Now, if you can tell a little bit about me, how I named my son, okay? Yes, you guys know what a Maverick is. So he's at home in Naples taking care of my son. And I found this picture, Pastor Phil, with me in the cast. This was me 8 years ago. The weekend I came here to Christian Retreat. This is in Ybor City. That's where we stayed. That's when my husband's classes were for architect, for continuing education. So that was the weekend I discovered the kingdom. Sitting right back there with my cast on. And again, the happiest woman on the planet when I found what I heard Dr. Monroe teaching about. Fast forward a few years later, this was me this summer. I was honored to travel with Papa. That was in Jamaica. And you guys know how he feels about lions and eagles, so we found a lion. And so it's just amazing as I see the progression over the years. But my hunger demanded that I shadow this man. The vision demanded I shadow him. My hunger made it happen. So God will never give you something you don't ask for or desire. He doesn't impose himself on you. And I know growing up in the church, I was always waiting to hear from the will of God. How am I going to know God's will for my life? And I went to ORU and I had no clue what I was going to do in my life. So I said, I'll do business administration. And I started my major. And then halfway through, I said, I don't like this. This is hard stuff. I hate econ and I hate accounting. And so I changed it to health and exercise science. And I enjoyed that. But I went to school not knowing what in the world I was going to do with my life. But I thought that was okay because God's going to lead and direct me. Right? And so I wanted to show the picture I found of us last year in the room. We did the lion. I have this thing where we all roar like lions because we're Papa's little lion cubs. So that's all of us last year. Now, you guys remember how it was growing up Christmas time as a kid. And you couldn't wait for Christmas morning. That's how I felt again when it was my turn to travel with Papa Myles on his plane. It was like Christmas morning again. I couldn't sleep the night before. And I go, man, I'm going to get to travel 2 weeks in the plane with Papa, toe to toe. And I asked him a million questions. And I finally got to the point, I said, okay, Papa, you can start writing your book now. I'll let you write your book, because that's what he does on the plane is write his books. So I was very honored and privileged. As many of you know, he shows his picture of Nelson Mandela when he met him. And when Carlos took this picture with his iPad, Papa's iPad, Papa showed me the picture, and I said, that's my Nelson Mandela picture. But I had no idea I'd be using it now. I thought I'd have another 20, 30 years. Okay. This was me with him in Medellin, Colombia this summer. So I was honored to travel. If you can imagine, we had him 3 days here every year. If you can imagine shadowing him for 2 weeks, and you've heard us say we learned so much from just observing him, how he interacted with people. Here we are in the government of St. Martin. And let me tell you, when he's with the government, it's on another level. Nobody on this planet can do what he did. Now, some of us are going to have to, and we're going to have to figure it out. But we were trained by the best. This guy had a gift. Absolutely amazing. I was amazed how he dealt with these people. Here, this is the president of parliament in St. Martin. This was the prime minister in Curacao. And I saw him just love on these people. And his number one goal, he taught me, was just to be their friend. You know how much knowledge Papa Myles has? He didn't go in trying to impress anybody or spitting up on them all this information. His goal and what he taught us to do, how to influence the world, is just be their friend. That's it. It's that simple. You don't have to try to get them to say the prayer or get them to confess Jesus as Lord. You be their friend. And there's a whole teaching he did on that. So not only did he teach us, I saw how he did it, and it works. Here we are in Curacao again. I put a few pictures up. This was in Lima, Peru. This place was the largest bull ring down in Peru. And he always gave his mentees a platform and wanted to push them and give them the experience. I was honored to, if you can imagine, in a few short years learning the kingdom, going to his kingdom training seminars, and then he started inviting me to teach it. So I became a student, and then he had me start teaching it. I was like, man, this is crazy stuff. What's going on? So it was an honor to share the pulpit with that man. Here's all of us from Naples in Papa's house the last time we visited him. And what we did was we sat down and we asked him questions about the vision that he had written out. Because we needed some more understanding. We needed to see our roles in it and how we played in it. So this was an amazing time with him. And of course, I have everybody roaring again. He was such a good sport. Here we are at his 60th birthday, and where we were able to honor and celebrate his life with him. And then this was his last trip to Naples. It was just 6 weeks before he transitioned. And we took care of some amazing business. We're starting an office, a regional office next week in Naples to continue the vision. And so he literally was handing us the baton in our hands before he left, which was amazing because a lot of people they hold on so tight. And then they die with it. So you have to learn to let go. He embodied the vision. I won't even go there with this. Okay, every year I would look forward to being with Papa here. And we'd get to hear what the theme of the year was, right? And then I'm like, oh man, he's not here. What are we gonna do? What's the theme for this year? And I'm glad Pastor Phil was able to share with us some of it. So because he went into detail, I won't, but let me just put it to you this way. It's the year of change and manifestation. Do you guys understand the weight, change, and manifestation? This happens with you, not just me, not someone behind a pulpit. This is real stuff, everyday living. You bring the manifestation of the kingdom of God everywhere you go. It doesn't just happen in a church building. Jesus never set it up that way. He always sent them out. Go out. Remember, the disciples grew too big to 70. He says, you guys got to go. Right? His job wasn't to build. His job was to impart so they could go and manifest it out in the real world. That's your job. All right, I won't get into the numbers because Pastor Phil already did. I think you preached half my thing tonight. But I want you to take a look at the bottom. There's all the numbers, each number of the calendar year, 5775. And to summarize it, this is the year the loose ends come together. And God steps into the door and reveals the beauty of his plan here on the earth. A remnant is being positioned to manifest the wisdom of the king and the authority of his kingdom. That's your job. That's your mandate for this year. No more sitting on the pew getting spoon-fed. Pastor Phil, I know you don't like spoon-feeding. You want to see fruit, right? And you love hearing the good reports. Jesus wants to see fruit in your life. You will give an account for what you did with it. So, what I would like to lay out to you is the teaching that I received as a mentee from Dr. Myles in the cost and the process of the vision. Because there is a cost. Junice alluded to the cost. There is a price to pay. But like Ferris was singing, we bounce back, right? Things happen, but we're built for adversity. We're not just built for blessings. You are built for adversity. So here's the 7 requirements of vision. The first note I would like to make is the secret laws of kingdom success. A full life is determined by not how long you lived your life. We think life in length of years, but by how much you donated to your generation. What did you contribute? Did you give of yourself? The only way to measure success is to know what you're supposed to be doing. How do you know if you're successful in life? Only if you discover your purpose. And the word work, when God told Adam to work in the garden, the word in Hebrew is ergon, to become. So what God said to Adam was, become yourself. Manifest yourself. We have to see your potential, your full glory, the weight of God in you. Papa Myles would teach about a flower bud, and you would never see the full weight or glory of it until it bloomed. So what God is saying, he's waiting for you to bloom into your full manifestation of the potential of what he created you to be. But it takes diligence and work, and you have to discover yourself. Who am I? So that's what the whole mentorship program in a nutshell is discovering yourself. Who are you? That's the only way you can measure your success in your life is by knowing, what am I supposed to be doing? I can't measure the success of my life and compare myself to Pastor Phil, because His assignment is completely different than mine. But when I was growing up in the church, I thought, there's the pastor, there's the pulpit. If I want to be successful in life and do something for God, I have to do that. That was my idea. It was just, nobody told me that, but that was my assumptions that I grew up with. And so I had to understand, I have my own assignment that is unique to anybody else's, just as yours is. Here's Papa. The real you is the work you were born to do. So I wanted to see the real you. Who are you? Most people never discover who they are. Never. And that's why Papa says the graveyard is the wealthiest place. So much potential in the graveyard. So what is success? Success is not what you have done compared to other people. It's what you've done compared to what you were created to do. You can only compare yourself to yourself. But you got to know what you're supposed to do. It's a fulfillment of the purpose and assignment for which you were created. It's completion of your purpose. I know I am being successful in my life because I see the progression, because I've written the vision. I look at it every year. Okay, last year, check, check, yes. This year, oh my gosh. Let me tell you, I felt like my life started when I wrote the vision down. And I can measure every year of progression since 2010 when I wrote the vision down. Now I can compare myself to myself because it's written on paper, plain. And I can see, yes, I'm progressing. And then as you continue in the vision, God reveals another piece of it, another plan. There's always more he's showing you. He shows you the end result, but he doesn't show you each step of the way, or you'd say, never mind. You wouldn't sign up for that. He knows. So this is how I measure success in Papa Myles' life, because this was his life vision, transforming followers into leaders and leaders of agents of change. Do I think he was successful in that? Absolutely yes. Because he handed over the baton. He mentored those that wanted it, desired it, and seeked it before he left. So we aren't all scrambling around trying to figure out what do we do now. Like lost sheep, like where'd our shepherd go? We don't know what to do. You know exactly what to do. Because we know what our gifting is. We know our area of leadership, which is in your gifting. So we're not sitting around, oh, I don't know what to do, and the sky is falling, and we know exactly what to do. And then we come together, we say, okay, this was the vision, now let's do this. Let's run with this together. Right. This isn't for any one person. Trust me, with the vision Papa laid out, it's gonna take like a team of a bunch of people. But honestly, less is more in the kingdom, right? I won't go down there. Okay, everyone has one thing to contribute to your generation. I want to try to make this simple for you to understand. This helped me so much. What is your gift? You discover it by what is your passion? What are you passionate about? What do you become passionate about? What angers you? What's that dream you can't get out of your head? What is that one thing that you love doing that you would do if even nobody paid you? You just can't help yourself. You do it in your sleep. What is that one thing? What is the one thing you were born to do? If you become successful in an area in life, you really become influential in all areas of life. I've become very successful in the hotel industry in Naples, Florida, and it was through the recession it happened. Because I sat here in 2009, there's that year again, when Papa came and spoke Overcoming Crisis for 3 days. I was like, oh my goodness. And I came back to the hotel and I implemented all the principles he taught those 3 days. And then I implemented it, no, I didn't. And then I tried to help my husband implement it in his life. We know how that goes, ladies, right? Kind of do reverse psychology a little bit, make them think it's their idea and stuff like that. No, but the principles worked. And so my husband launched a very successful architectural firm in the middle of recession. Were you guys here in 2009 in Florida? Do you guys have any idea how bad it was? All the architectural firms closed their door, and my husband's starting his business. This was 5 years ago now. Now he's the largest firm in our region with 32 people, and he still can't keep up with the workload. But that's his gifting. And once I said, okay, The key to everything's in your gifting. Your gift makes room for you. Your gift will sustain you regardless of what the economics of this world is doing. So I understood that principle. It's a very simple principle. Very simple. I said, all right, I know my husband's, I know mine, let's do this. This was huge when Papa taught me this. He said, you weren't born to do everything and meet every need. I thought I was. And a lot of people come to you with their needs, right? And I thought it was my job to help everybody with all their needs. But it's not. You know the weight that lifted? And then he said this scripture. He said he learned this at ORU. Martha, you are worried and upset and encumbered about many things, but only a few in life are necessary. Jesus himself, only a few things in life are necessary. So just focus on those few things in your life that are necessary. So I started dropping projects, dropping things. I'm pretty excited. I get involved in stuff. Oh, let's do this. Oh, I can see this. Because I'm kind of a visionary. Oh, I can see we can do this. Oh, let's go do this. And I said, okay, hold on. I can't have all these pans on the fire in the oven or somewhere in the kitchen. I don't like the kitchen. And so I said, I need to put my frying pans away and use one. And so I became very focused on exactly what I'm called to do. I had so much going on. Your body can't take the stress, guys. The stress will kill you. Your body can't handle that. All right, are you gonna do things for God that he never asked you to do? Cooking is good, but it's not right if God didn't ask you to do it. Here she was serving Jesus food. God himself was in her house and she's cooking for him. But it wasn't right. But it's a good thing. But is it the right thing for you? When I learned this, man, that changed everything in my life. The weight was lifted. And then I was free to run with the one thing I was born to do. Okay, don't be busy and not progressing. You can only know if you're progressing if you have your vision written out. Then you can measure it to something. And not every good opportunity is a blessing. The vision helps you distinguish between good and right. A lot of people will come to you with good ideas or projects or ministries, but how do you know when to say no? How do you know when to say yes? These are very important questions that we ask ourselves on a daily basis. So the most frustrated person in the world is someone who has a dream but has no clue how to make it happen. That's frustration. You see something, but you don't have a clue and you don't know how to get it started. So, but God has placed in the human a unique plan that's unique for you that your generation needs. They're waiting on you. And listen, I don't care how old you are. You can finish well. Pour yourself out. Age is not an issue in the kingdom. That's not the issue here. So don't think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm 89 years old and I'm done. No, you're not done yet. You're still kicking. The greatest gift God gave man is the power of choice, and that's the most dangerous responsibility that we have. We make up to 7,000 choices a day. That's a handful. Now, the most challenging task is not making decisions, but knowing which ones to make. I'm going to help you with this. You must make decisions relevant to your pursuit. When you write down your vision and people come to you and you know exactly what you were born to do, and people say, hey, I have this great opportunity, this great venture, why don't you come with me, why don't you do this? Well, I got this great multi-level marketing company and we can do this. Hold on. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with multi-level marketing, all right? I'm not saying that. But if it's a distraction from my vision, then it's not the right thing for me, even though it may be a good thing for somebody else. I mean, you can spend a lot of time being busy, but not progressing in the vision. So how do you know what is beneficial to you? That is the question in life. And like Paul said, I have the right to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. Those are two different translations. So the quality of your decisions is determined by the quality of information you have, and they're totally at the mercy of your vision. You see how important vision is? Let me tell you again, I didn't start living until I wrote my vision down. I can't say that enough. because then I had a reason why I was living, why I am here. Otherwise, I was just going through life and making money for my dad at the hotel. Hey, I'm your cash cow. Look at me. Okay, Dad, what you got? You know, during the recession, he went almost bankrupt, and the hotel kept him out of the water. And he would call me. He's not a kingdom citizen. And he would call me, Trista, how are you doing so well at that hotel in the middle of the recession? I'd be like, Dad, I'm in the kingdom. He'd be like, okay, whatever. And he'd hang up on me. But listen, my dad and I only talk business. He's a businessman. No emotions, not how you doing, none of that. No hello, goodbye, none of that. All right, no one's got time for that. And so he'd call, Trista, how much money you have in your bank? That's all he wants to know from me. How much money I have in the hotel's bank? Dad, I'm doing good. Everything's fine. We're making a lot of money. So, but during recession, his business mind, his logical thinking could not wrap around this idea of how the hotel was so prosperous in the middle of recession. I'm like, Dad, I told you, I'm in the kingdom. So let me just put it to you this way. I never had to go to my dad and try to explain to him about this kingdom or shove it down his throat. He saw evidence of it. And then he's like, this makes no sense. Right? Manifestation of the kingdom on the earth here and now. You don't have to wait for it till you get to heaven. You bring it down here in your situation, whatever the situation is. It don't matter. There's no recession in the kingdom. I learned that. There is no recession. For 5 years, I kept my father's, all of his companies afloat. He lost, like, the first year, 800 employees. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, ching, ching, down at the hotel making money, ching, ching. And he'd say, send me some money. Okay, Dad. But he couldn't figure out, how is this possible? But I learned some principles from this one book. You guys have no idea how powerful these books are. Wait, where'd it go? The Overcoming Crisis one. You guys, all of these books are principles. Those are laws. When you understand the principles of God, Jesus called them keys. I give you the keys. You lock and you unlock here on earth, and heaven will lock and unlock. He gave you the power to operate the principles on the earth. But you got to know these principles, because I give you the secret knowledge of the kingdom. They're secret keys. They don't just fall in your lap. You got to study. You got to learn. You got to seek, and you will find. So all Papa taught was principles and the original truth of God. That's what I was looking for, is truth. I had to discover who I was. I didn't find it in Christian school, or you. Nobody told me. I had to discover it myself through a mentorship program that I had to pay for. You see me flying on the plane with him? I had to pay for that. There's no free ride. I know we get used to free rides sometimes. No, you got to pay a price. Elisha was rejected 3 times. Elisha was rejected 3 times from Elijah. We heard Hubert talking about that. That's real stuff. Papa rejected me. Hubert and I were telling our rejection stories last night. We didn't do anything wrong. He was testing us for authenticity, true sonship. Why are we here? Man, when Jesus told the disciples, you got to eat my flesh and drink my blood, they said, oh, this is hard. We can't handle this. What? And they all left. Who was standing? Who was left? The disciples. And Peter goes, we've got nowhere to go. Where else are we going to go? That's exactly how it is when you discover the kingdom. Like, there's no place else to go. This is it. So when you come to that conclusion in life and you're ready to get down to business, man, your life can change this year. But you got to learn some principles. You have to go buy the books. You guys heard my story the other night? I went, the first time I heard him teach a kingdom, I didn't come to meet him. My goal wasn't, hey, I'm this little girl in Naples. My goal wasn't to meet him. My goal was to get this information from those books, and I had to pay a price for it. I didn't care what it cost me, because this is gold right here. This is my life. Like, I have to live my life. Like, I have to live with the decisions I make. I have to live with the consequences of the decisions that I make. So I better do something about it, because I don't want to be miserable and depressed and suffering and broke. for my, who wants no life? Jesus talked about this abundant life. It's up to you to discover that abundant life. And it's all in principles. And Papa Myles did all the work for all of us. He says, I'll write this book for you. It's all in here, but we got to read it. Listen, some of his books, I've highlighted every single line, right? Every line's highlighted. That's some good stuff. Principles work for you when you apply them. Jesus told a parable. You plant the seed, you put it in the ground, and then you go to sleep, right? You don't have to go to the seed and pray over the seed and speak in tongues and pray for it to grow. You understand some principles about the seed. You put it in the ground, you make sure it's watered, you make sure it's in the sunlight, and it grows. The principles of the seed are in itself and are activated once you activate it. So your job is to learn the principles of the kingdom of God, apply them and activate them. He says, I give you the keys. You activate them. We think God's like this magic genie in a bottle and sitting around waiting to grant us 3 wishes. He doesn't work like that, does he? You can see, because some of us are praying for the same thing for 20 years now. We're like, what's wrong with this picture? Listen, I've been in it. I know. I know some things. So back to vision. Vision is your purpose in pictures. Whatever your purpose is, your vision is how you're going to implement it. Purpose is why you're here. And then vision is how. How are you going to implement what you were born to do? This is the most important thing. Then you know what you want to accomplish. You become infectious and inspiring. And you become very narrow-minded. I'm a very narrow-minded woman. And I'm okay with that. Because I know when to say no. And then I don't add these burdens to my life. Trying to, sometimes we say yes just to please people. Listen, you don't need to do that. There's only one person you need to please. Is our King. A lot of times we violate the principles of vision because of lack of discipline. We get lazy for whatever reason. So this is what Papa Myles defined discipline as. Self-imposed standards. You impose the standards on yourself according to the vision that you want to accomplish. So I can't hang out all night watching the Kardashians all night long. I'm on my computer. I'm doing stuff. I'm researching. I'm studying. I'm seeing, thinking. Take time to think. I'm going to get to that. But take time to think. Discipline protects your vision. That's what protects it. Proverbs 23:23. Buy the truth and do not sell it for love or money. Get wisdom. We all want that. Then he says, get discipline. Uh-oh. And understanding. You see? I bet you never saw that before. All 3 things go together. They go hand in hand. Discipline is the highest order of living. Linda, I took this from you. Linda Joe did this. Papa used to always give the key because so many people asked him, the number one question he always got asked was, how do you do it all? How do you write so many books? You're a family man, you're a husband, you're a pastor, you travel the world, how do you do it? And this was his formula. There's no secret. He said, you prioritize your life according to the vision. You organize your life according to your priorities. And then you discipline your life according to the vision. He says, that's how I went from the floor in a shack to a beach. But his goal wasn't that. It just naturally happened because he was pursuing his vision. So now we're going to get into the real teaching. Seven requirements for vision. I'm going to go fast through this, okay? Number 1. Actually, Pastor Phil, you preached this on the picnic bench for me today. You know that? You went right through this list. 7 requirements for vision. Number 1, your purpose. Why you're here. It's the fuel for the vision. Number 2, passion. That's your gasoline. I'm very passionate about certain things in my life because of the vision. But I'm not pulled 20 different ways anymore like I used to be. So I'm very narrow-minded and focused. And number 3, and Papa Myles, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, spent 3 days explaining planning. So it's when you take your passion and you put it on paper. This is hard work. It's harder to plan than actually do, because you have to sit and think. How are you going to execute it? Now, planning is not a prison, all right? You have your plan, but there's different ways that you can go about things. So when things change, don't get your panties in a bunch. You just shift, okay? Like, for instance, if you want to go to Bradenton Airport, you know your final destination, but there's many different ways to get there. Depending on traffic, you may take a certain route. So planning doesn't put you in a box, but it does outline things for you. So you can take a detour, but it's not a source of pressure. It's not a prison. And then I love this quote Papa Myles shared with us: when planning for a year, plant corn. When planning for a decade, plant trees. When planning for life, train and educate people. And that was his goal. You saw how much time he spent with people? He was always spending time with people because that was his goal, because he wanted to leave a legacy. So plan according to your vision. Here's a scripture: commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. So number 1, you must plan. God doesn't do the planning for you. Listen, I'm only sharing this because nobody told me this. I didn't know. Or at Oral Roberts, they didn't teach me to plan. I was just waiting for the will of God to fall out of the sky. I didn't know where to find it. But I knew it was coming. I knew he had a plan. But he put the plan in you. Who plans? Your plans. So you commit your plan. You commit to your plans, and you commit them to God. And this is one of my favorite scriptures. To man belongs the plans of the heart. Who do the plans belong to? To the man. All right, so that's where you find the plans. But from the Lord comes the reply of the tongue. And the Hebrew translation is, man makes the plans, and God explains how it's going to be paid for. Now that should be a weight relieved, a burden lifted. Your job is not to provide the resources. That's his responsibility to you. Because if it's truly the vision he's giving you, he will make it come to pass. But he's looking for somebody to do it. Now, one of the principles of the kingdom about finances is access. So as a kingdom citizen, you have access to everything you need when you need it. Okay, you guys following me? Amen. Not the month before you need it. Not even sometimes the day before you need it. But true wealth in the kingdom of God is having access to everything you need when you need it. That's why you don't worry. I'm not stressed. I'm too blessed. Listen, that's the jam. You know that's the jam. I had the bootleg copy when that first came out. He hadn't even put it on record yet. He did a concert in Naples for me, and that was the song he was working on in the studio, and he gave me a bootleg copy. I played it in my car. That's just a smooth groove. I love it. I brought back a lot of memories. That was the first year I learned about the kingdom. So you plan your way out of debt. You plan your way to better health. You guys, health is important. I know you guys know this. I've had to make some changes in my life regarding my health, what I can eat, what I can't eat, and take care of myself so I can do the vision. If I'm sick, man, I can't get nothing done because I'm busy running to the doctors, and I'm busy. How do I pay for this bill? I got to have surgery now. So we take care of ourselves. Plan your way out of bad company. How about that one? That's a fun one. Listen, it's okay to say no. I know they say, come on, let's go to bingo night. No, I'm not going to bingo tonight. I'm making a plan. What you doing? Don't you worry, go to bingo. But listen, it's okay to say no. When you have your vision, then you know exactly what to say no to and what to say yes to. I have people that come to me a lot with their vision, or some people that come to me and want advice. And before they come, I say, don't waste your time, and I'll text them back. I say, listen, bring me your life vision. Send me your vision first, then I can give you advice. Otherwise, you're not giving me anything to work with. I don't know. How do I know? Only you know the purpose of God for your life. and I can help you make decisions. Does that make sense? Okay. He gave you the responsibility to plan. Oh, I don't want to miss this one. You have the brain power to plan what you want to accomplish this year. I got to tell you, when I was growing up in the church, I know it's not at this church, in the church back home, it was like you left your brain at the door. And then you walk in, and you're just like, ooh, whatever the Holy Spirit's doing, and you leave your brain at the door. And let me tell you something. I was in the church most of my life. And when I wasn't in the church, I was working at my father's company. He's a water well driller. I was on the lathe machines. How many knows what a lathe machine? How many knows what a motor grader is? You know what a front end loader is? You know what a water well? I did all that. I did all the milling. I did soldering because I had little fingers. He said, oh, you can solder good. Right? So I did all that. But what you guys didn't know, I came from the trailer park. And I didn't tell my story at the beginning. Papa, I'm sorry. But, you see the hotel, but you don't know my story. We come from the trailer park. We originally were in a shack, so the trailer park was a step up. So I feel at home when I drive in here. I really did. But I lived in a double wide, so we were the only double wide in the whole trailer park. And a pool. And Doreen is here. Doreen was my neighbor in the trailer park. You guys know Doreen? I cried when I saw her tonight. My mom baptized her in our pool in the trailer park. So you guys hear me talk about the trailer park. Doreen can attest, right? She was my neighbor. Those were good times. I had a little motorcycle. A little Honda 50. Doreen, do you remember my motorcycle? Those were good times. I love living in the trailer park. But this was what my father taught me all the time. So I had my mom bringing me in the church, dragging me every prayer meeting, every time it was open. And then she started teaching the church. And then as soon as I was out of the church, my dad was bringing me to work. So my life was like this, work and church. So if I wasn't in church, I was at work. If you didn't see me at work, you knew I was in the church. But my dad was like, you got to use your brain. Don't forget God gave you a brain. That's the only time he ever talked to God to me was, don't forget he gave you a brain. He even brought it up again the other day. I said, you're right, Dad. You're right. So my dad taught me the brain side of things, to use it. And my mom taught me how to hear from the Holy Spirit. And let me tell you, you put those two things together, you are a force to be reckoned with. When you put those two. The brain is the most important organ that God created because you are made in his image. His intellect. You're not an animal. We don't belong to the animal kingdom. The Bible says you're made a little lower than him. Now, if you read your King James, I know you think it's lower than the angels, but King James is not the translation from heaven, okay? That's right. He says, I made you, David said, he made us a little lower than himself. What? You're men. We are living so far below our potential. And he's like, man, I gave you guys dominion over your health. I gave you dominion over the circumstances. Listen, when I learned about dominion, a hurricane would come to Naples. I said, no, not coming to Naples. There's no way. And I would go out on my porch and I would speak. They name the hurricanes. So I'm like, okay, it's got a name. Whatever the name was, Antebellum. Antebellum, you have no right to come to Naples. The dominion and the kingdom authority of God is here. And one time, the first time I did that was right after I learned about the kingdom. The first time they named the storm and it's coming to Naples, they track it. And the day before it got to us, the forecaster says, we've never seen such a confused storm in our life. So by the time it got to us, it fizzled. It was confused. And I'm like, man, this kingdom stuff is nuts. Right? You got dominion over hurricanes. Jesus showed us that in the boat over the storm. All he did was show you how to have dominion again with the fish, the storms, the birds, not over one another. The plants, dominion over cocaine. If you don't know the purpose of a thing, you will abuse it. He gave you dominion over everything on this planet. And we're living so far below our potential. And he's like, man, what happened to them? Let me tell you something. I heard a famous woman preacher the other day. I may get in trouble here, but that's okay. She said, the greatest threat to the enemy is your relationship with God. I go, really? Now, I may have believed her before I understood how this kingdom works. And I said, my relationship to God? So maybe if I go up on a mountaintop and I'm there 40 days and nights, that's the greatest blessing, threat to the enemy? How can that be? You're no threat when you've isolated yourself and you're living on the mountaintop and you've isolated yourself from impacting in the world. That's what Jesus said, go in the world, go in the systems and influence it. I'm gonna tell you, the number one threat to the enemy is he is keeping you in ignorance. That's his tool, keeping you in ignorance so you never know who you are. That's his goal. You just think, oh, I'm a sinner saved by grace. I'm glad I'm just here, and I just barely made it by the skin of my teeth. You guys, you're kings. You walk like men. We're not animals. You have dominion. Wherever you go, you bring the influence of the kingdom. When I walk into the hotel, I'm like, kingdom's here. That's right. What you got? What's going on? Got any problems? Yeah, we got problems. Okay, what today? But you have authority. I've had some employees, I've had 2 employees come to me, and they've had, I don't know what the word, the pregnancies were going bad and the baby was growing in the tube. So, yeah, yes. So they weren't sure their babies would make it. So 2 times, like, come on in my office. Do you mind if I pray for you? I put my little hand on their belly and I say, I speak life to this baby, and you move from the tube to the uterus, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. So I tell the baby what to do. Because that's what Jesus showed us to do. You just speak to it. It has no choice. 2 beautiful babies were born. 2 babies. One's 7 years old, and her mom teaches my baby how to swim. But I'm telling you, this stuff works, and it's on a daily basis. It's supposed to be evident in your life on a daily basis. I don't walk into the hotel and say, okay, who wants me to pray for them now? What's going on? No, you don't do that. That was what I was taught to do. When I was at Oral Roberts, we would go witnessing, and I would go to the airport and sit around. No one's at the airport on a Friday night in Tulsa. Who's at an airport? Tulsa. And no one's around, so witness to the security guard. But that's what you're supposed to do. That's what I did. That's what I was told to do. But man, you can go out and impact and have more of an influence. That's why Jesus said, greater works will you do. He didn't say better. He said, greater works will you do. You know why? He was one man, and he never left Palestine. And then when he left, he put the Holy Spirit in 120 people, and they did greater things. They went all over the place. That's what he's expecting from us. That's our mandate. And he's sitting up there like, what are you guys waiting for? Because we take our brain out and we checked it out the door or something. I don't know. I used to do that. So I'm just saying my experience. I know y'all don't do that. I did. And then finally I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to plan my life. I have to write the vision. I have to have dominion wherever I go. I bring this influence. Okay. I added this point into Papa's point, all right? This is point 3A, Trista's version. Thinking. A very important part. The thoughts and purposes of the righteous are honest and reliable. In other words, you will know the will of God by what thoughts keep coming to you. When I heard Papa teach that, I go, I knew it. I just knew it. That resonated in my spirit. I'm like, I knew it. That's how God talks to you. Because your spirit, he's a spirit, he thinks through you if your heart is right. So if your heart is right, your thoughts are right. Write down your thoughts. That's planning. He's talking to you. But we ignore and we think, oh, it's on our own head. He thinks through you. That changed everything. When I learned that, I'm like, I knew it. That made sense. All right. Thinking is hard work. Oh, are we done? They shut me down. I'm done. Thinking is hard work, and that's why so few people do it. That's what Albert Einstein said. It is hard work. And then Adolf Hitler said, what good fortune for those in power that people do not think. Adolf Hitler was banking on that. Okay, good. I want you to see this. Nelson Mandela, a good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. That's what I'm trying to get to you guys. You use both. Now remember, in the Bible, when you read the word heart, in Hebrew that means mind. Okay? When I understood that, my Bible reads so differently now. So here's a few scriptures I want to show you in Daniel 10. Do not be afraid, Daniel. The angel said to this when he came to him. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and humble yourself, God was waiting on Daniel to set his mind to get with the program. God doesn't make you do anything. He's waiting on you. Set your mind what you're going to do this year. Set your mind to discover your purpose, that one thing to contribute to your generation. You set your mind and then God responds. He's waiting on us. And then for the eyes of the Lord range through the earth to strengthen those hearts, which means mind, are fully committed to him. Let me tell you something. Hubert and I went and had a conversation with Papa for the day after his birthday. We talked about the vision. You know what he wanted to talk about? Abandonment. Didn't he, Hubert? Where's Hubert? Didn't he? We wanted to know how to execute the vision, when to do it, give us the 5 points, because I wanted to go and run. And all he wanted to do was talk about abandonment for a third of this 3-hour conversation we had. And I go, abandonment? Why is he talking? I want to know the nuts and bolts so we can do this. I'm going back to Naples and doing this. And all he talked about was abandonment. And I'm like, what? We transcribed the meeting. This is why most people never could accomplish the vision with him, because they never got to the place of pure abandonment to the vision. He wanted us to get to that place of abandonment. That's what God's waiting on us to do. Abandon yourself to the vision. Be completely, fully sold out. But if you have so much stuff going on, that's tough. It's tough. Listen, I'm a mom now. I understand. There's a lot going on. I have to time block myself. I have to block my time. I have to be disciplined with my time more than ever. I have a husband too. So it's work. So here's the key to knowing God's will. It says, closes your most persistent thoughts and deepest desires. It's trapped inside of you. You have to discover it. That's where the will of God is. It's not behind the tree. It's not sitting out in the pavilion out there. It's trapped inside, so you have to study yourself. What's your passion? Okay, the fourth thing the vision requires is people. And I put in abandonment. You have to abandon yourself. You are the only one that believes it at first. People don't join you until you're moving. Listen, you guys in this community, you can accomplish a lot. But it just takes a committed person abandoned to the vision. Whatever the vision is that God gave you. You know, it could be making the, cookies or painting nails. You want to open a nail salon. You know how much you can impact people's lives by sitting there for an hour painting their nails? I mean, you really can. So nothing's too menial. You don't have to think big impact. You just think. And you study your gift and your passion. I hope I'm really breaking this down and making it simple for you, because I think in the past we've complicated the will of God for our lives. Persistence. This is a key. God is not interested in you only achieving your goal, but being qualified to achieve it. And you heard Hubert talk a lot today about qualification for the vision. The process is more important than the destination. So God is looking for qualified, abandoned people to get the job done on the earth so he can come back. Remember, he's waiting on us. And in religion, I thought I was waiting on him. Any day he's going to come, so what's the point of doing anything because he's coming any day? And then I read in the scripture, well, Dr. Myles showed me in the scripture, that the end of the world is not based on the terrorists bombing the World Trade Center. It's not based on capturing bin Laden. It's not based on Obama being in as president. You know, everybody, oh, he's the Antichrist. You know, all these things go around. I know some of you guys may think that. But it's based on a teaching of the kingdom of God. Then the end will come, based on a message. So it's our job to get the message out. You can do it sitting in the nail salon.
Sure can.
You can do it. You have a trucking ministry
Yep.
with the truckers.
Yep.
There's so many different ways to do it. We just got to think and use your own gifting. Leaders don't wait. They initiate. They break traditions. Thank you, God. We talked, Pastor Phil, you could have just preached this tonight. You did all this at the picnic bench today. Take risks, be bold. Do not let fear intimidate or stop you. There's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. That's one thing I don't understand, because the way I was brought up, for instance, we go water skiing in the lakes, you know what's in lakes in Florida? Yeah, big gators. And I'm a little girl and I'm water skiing. My dad would be like, get in the lake, go water skiing. I'd be like, Dad, there's gators. He goes, it's okay, you'll be okay. And I believed him. So I grew up believing my dad that everything's okay. And look, I'm still here. So I never had any fear because my dad told me it was okay. So I believed him. And then I transferred that to God. Whenever God said go do something, I just do it. But a lot of times we hesitate. Why do we hesitate? What's the hesitation? You can talk yourself out of these things. Fear. What are people going to think of me? Who cares? They're not going to be around that long anyway. People come and go all the time. Other people's opinions. One person's opinion, my king's opinion, is the only one that matters. That's it. What he says goes. That's it. Man, I want to accomplish something for him. I can't say, oh, Doreen, my neighbor at the trailer park, said I'm just a girl from the trailer and I won't amount to nothing. Like, what if she would have told me that? You know, I would have believed her maybe. I don't know. And then the fear, I'm from the trailer park and I can't amount to anything. You know, being born on the wrong side of the tracks, or I'm not the right color, or I'm not the right gender, right? I mean, women go through that. The oppression, that's Papa's number one goal, to get that oppression out. That's it. So you can be a leader. Don't let anybody oppress you in your mind. A lot of oppressed people. So don't be defined or confined by people's opinions. Ever. Number 6, perseverance. Number 7, prayer. That's a very important one. You need to communicate. Now, the most effective prayer is listening. If you're talking too much, you won't hear anything. Meditate. You guys have an amazing island. Go sit over there, meditate. I take an hour or 2 hours every week, and I go to this salt cave. We have a salt cave. You know, you breathe the Himalayan salt. You just relax. They play nice little music. And it's just salt, guys, all right? Don't get all excited. And I go in there. I relax. I can't take my iPhone in there. I can't take music. I can't do anything. And I just sit there on the little chaise lounge, and I think. I think of vision. I think, okay, God, what's going on now? What are we doing? What's next? I just think. You know how hard it is to go there? I got so much going on, but I make myself go 1 to 2 times a week. Same thing. You don't have to have a salt cape. You go into your bedroom, your closet, whatever it is. Go in your car. Sometimes you just go sit in your car, right? Okay. Now here's something I want to show, and I'm going to end with this eventually. Success is built sequentially. Did I say that right? Good. Okay. It's one thing at a time. Sometimes it can seem so big and you don't know where to start, and it's overwhelming or intimidating, right? Let me give you a secret. This is how success is. I'm going to show you this diagram. You see the dominoes there? That first little domino is only 2 inches. Okay, regular dominoes, 2 inches. But the theory of the dominoes is geometric progression. That theory is saying if you have a 2-inch domino, it can topple over the next domino that's 50% bigger than itself. Then it will topple over the next one that's 50% bigger than it. And the next, it's bigger, okay? So this is how success works. So by the time you get to the 18th domino, it's the size of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's domino 18. Domino 23 is the size of the Eiffel Tower. That's only domino 23. But what I'm trying to say to you is, what's your first domino? What does that look like? My first domino started in 2010 when I joined the mentorship program and started writing my vision. If you don't join the mentorship program, he has his vision book. And then there's a vision workbook. You guys can do the same thing I did also. And so that was my first domino. And then it affected the next domino. And then the next one. So here I'm only a few years into it. But looking back, I'm like, man, I can't believe. I showed you guys in the beginning, 8 years since I learned the kingdom and a lot of dominoes. But you start with the first little domino. And by the 57th domino, it's just all the way to the moon. That's only 57th domino. So sometimes we get so overwhelmed, but you just start with your first domino. What is that? What is your gift? What is your passion? What keeps you up at night? What is that? Now, sometimes we've stuffed those feelings because life has gotten in the way. You know, somebody abused you. You've gone through a loss in your family. You lost a family member. The loss of my mother, my family member, drove me to find the kingdom. I started demanding things from God. That's a whole nother story. That's how I found the kingdom, because I lost my mom. I paid a price. But I would do it again. It drove me to find this kingdom, which changed everything. So, what is your domino? Now, here's a key. We talk a lot about faith. I came from the faith camp. I grew up with Kenneth Copeland. I grew up with Willie George. I grew up with Bartholomew, the dog. Willie George is, right, the mascot. Jesse Duplantis, Ray McCauley, all the good old boys, right, at the Believers Convention. And so I come from the faith camp, so I understand that. Then I had to relearn, rediscover faith. And Papa Myles taught me preparation is the highest act of faith. I thought faith was just believing. Faith is acting on what you believe. So I started actually preparing for the vision of Aitwala, which is his organization, his leadership organization, to train people in leadership out of oppression, change through leadership. And last year, we started making a lot of changes in our community back in Naples and actually started transitioning for it. I was demanding things to happen because I was making changes like it was happening. Now, in the natural, this is where your mind comes in, okay? You have your spirit, and you have your mind. Now, my mind was like, Trista, the things you're doing are crazy. But my spirit, I had peace. My mama taught me about peace that passes all understanding. You go by that, right? You have peace, Trista, or sandpaper? You grew up. I'd be like, Mom, I want to go to, Doreen's house. Well, do you have a peace or sandpaper? And she'd make me think. I'm like, I have a sandpaper feeling. She says, okay, don't go. The Holy Spirit's telling you not to go. Because let peace be the umpire in your heart. Peace tells you stop or go. Come on in or stop. So I learned that from my mom. And so what happened was I started making decisions based on the vision, and I had peace about it, but my mind was saying, you're crazy, because it hasn't come to fruition yet. But you're actually doing it because you know it's going to come to fruition, even though you don't see it in the natural, but you're making it happen. I demanded the future to me. And then when Papa Myles transitioned a few months ago, we were already ready. We didn't have to start preparing after he transitioned. We started preparing in February of last year, not knowing about his transition. That's the highest act of faith right there. And now looking back, it makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, this makes sense. We were doing this. That's powerful. That's true faith right there. When you start preparing yourself for it and doing it, God shows up. Action without vision is only passing time, but vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world. I'm crazy enough to believe that I can change the world, you can change the world. Look at bin Laden. He's a crazy man. He changed the world. It just takes a few people, and I'm crazy enough to believe it. And, what's that guy's name? Farrell. He came out with a song. Who came out with a song? Bruno, maybe? He said, don't believe me, just watch. There you go. Don't believe me, just watch. And that's how it is in the kingdom. Be careful, a lot of people that give lip service. Pastor Phil, you know that's right. Limited time. Our days are determined. Man's days are determined. In Job, God has limited our time. And this is what Papa Myles said. In the kingdom of God, age is not measured by years, but by assignments. I know he was done because I understand his assignment. Hubert laid it out very well today. So again, don't look at your age. That's not, Jesus was 33. That doesn't make any sense. But he said, it is finished. He didn't say, I was finished. It, what's it? The reason he came. He had to get the Holy Spirit back in you so you can have dominion again, power, manifest the kingdom of God on earth. It is done. Is it done with you? When it is, you can go. I'm going to end with this. I did a little research. The 5 regrets people make on their deathbed. This is very interesting. I don't want anyone having these regrets. The first regret, I wished I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the lives others expected of me. That's the number 1 regret people have in life. Number 2 regret, I wish I didn't work so hard. Papa said, God is not impressed with hard work, but if you fulfill your purpose. I was trained to work hard. My dad's a workaholic still. We don't believe in retirement, and there's no retirement in the kingdom of God, just so you know. And when I heard God wasn't impressed with hard work, I go, what am I busting for? What am I busting everything for? I said, he's impressed if I fulfill my purpose. I have one purpose. I'm going to focus on this one thing. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Number 4, friendships, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And number 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. People get stuck in old patterns and fear of change. There's a whole book Papa wrote on change. It's a powerful book. I love change. I love making change. I love thinking of change. I love changing everything up. That's fun. But people fear change. They get stuck in a rut, and that's one of their regrets. Why didn't I let myself be happier? Don't let the opinions of others paralyze you. Man, don't let them paralyze you. You got too much to live for, and God's waiting on you and depending on you to make a difference in your generation. And this scripture I read this when I was at ORU in the Message translation. It just came out. I'm dating myself, I know. Okay. It says, I'm not going to walk around on eggshells worrying about what small-minded people might say. I'm going to stride free and easy knowing what our large-minded master has already said. For 20 years, I've lived believing that. Everyone's got an opinion about you, about me. That's okay. They're entitled to their opinion. It don't matter. I care God's opinion. I'm not going to walk around, oh, they don't like me. Oh, they think I'm crazy. And then it paralyzes you. And you become dormant. God's looking for people to produce some fruit. What happened to the fig tree when it wasn't producing fruit? That's a principle. I could go to town on that one, especially as a business person. Show me some fruit. Here we go. Keys to maximizing your time. This is from Papa Myles. I stole this from him. Document and plan your goals now. You're in the beginning of the year. Establish your priorities. Pursue your purpose only. Identify what you value in life. Make decisions in line with long-term goals, your vision. Review your associations in life. We know that can hinder you. And do not try to please everyone. Martha, only a few things in life are necessary. That's Jesus telling us that. What a weight was lifted. Only focus on a few things. Therefore, I tell you that the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. That's in red in my Bible. He said, I will take the kingdom away from you because you did nothing with it. I'm looking for people who can produce and manifest it here on earth. He's not going to do it for us. He gave us everything. He did everything already. He's done. He says, I am seated on the right hand of the Father. When a king is seated down, that means there's order in the kingdom again. So after the cross, and he gave the Holy Spirit back, he went and sat down. It's done. And now he's saying, you better produce something. I'll take this kingdom from you. I went to Papa Myles. I said, I don't hear people. I've never heard anyone preach on this. He says, I do. I go, well, I'm going to too then. I never heard anyone explain to me this. Never. I've been around a long time. Jesus said this. Don't get mad at me. He said he will take the kingdom away and give it to people that produce its fruit. He's not looking for lazy, bless me club religious people. He's looking for people do something with what he gave you. And I'm going to finish with this, for real, for real. This is how God is glorified. Father, this is Jesus. Jesus said, Father, I have brought you glory by completing the work that you gave me to do. That's how we give God glory. Not like this. I thought that's what it was in the church. I'm giving God glory. And I did this all the time in my car, in my house. I was giving God glory. And Jesus said, I give you glory by completing the assignment you gave me to do. That glorifies God. That's our goal. So what is the one assignment he gave you to do? Don't complicate it. We're going to keep it simple. One thing. One thing in life is necessary. Do it well or don't do it at all. Go all out or skip it. Remember? Be hot or cold. That's what he's saying. Be one or the other. Don't be a bench warmer. So what is the work he gave you to do? Go home and think. I implore you, go home and think. Spend time thinking. Write it down and then start planning it. Pastor Phil, it's all you.